This is the DJI Avata, and I've had this drone for 6 months now, and I'm going to tell you all the amazing things about this drone, but also some of the bad things about this drone. So DJI have only released 2 FPV drones in history, the DJI FPV and the DJI Avata. The Avata is the latest release, and it's called a Cinewoop, and it's meant for different flying conditions as opposed to the DJI FPV drone. A Cinewoop has prop guards on it, meaning it's safer to fly around people for flying indoors and generally used for slower flying compared to the DJI FPV drone. But I have pushed this thing pretty fast, and just because this drone is classed as a Cinewoop doesn't mean you can't dive down waterfalls and get some epic shots with this drone. So don't let that deter you in buying the DJI Avata. One thing that I love about the DJI Avata is how small and compact it is. I can literally chuck this in my bag along with my goggles and controller and I'm good to go. Whereas a traditional FPV drone, you need shitloads of batteries and your flight time is a quarter of what you would get with the Avata. And you have to take chunky chargers, LiPo bags, cables, GoPros, and it all just gets a bit much. If you want to keep it simple, the Avata is the perfect FPV drone. What I also love about the Avata is you can use the new goggles too, which are smaller and lighter, and you don't look like a complete drongo wearing those other huge bloody things. With the new goggles, you also get the OLED screen, so you get much better quality in the actual goggles when you're flying, which makes FPV such an immersive experience. And trust me, there is nothing like flying an FPV drone and having full manual control. One of the best things I love about the Avata is the image quality that you can get out of this little tiny camera. You can shoot 4K up to 60 frames a second and 120 frames a second in 2.7K, and the image quality is just really crisp and professional looking. And that's a big deal. When I fly the DJI FPV, I normally have to mount a GoPro on top of it because the onboard camera is just not that great. And that's just extra stuff to carry, more batteries and just more pain in the ass. With the DJI Avata, you don't need to mount a GoPro on top. The onboard camera is totally usable and you can get some amazing results. You can also use rock steady, horizon steady, and my favorite is that you can use the gyro data and stabilize in gyro flow for amazing results. Another great thing about not having to mount a GoPro on the drone is that you keep the profile of the drone slimmer and smaller, so now I know I can go through gaps and take more risks because the drone is smaller and more nimble. Now, a lot of FPV enthusiasts aren't going to rate the Avata at all because they are hardcore FPV pilots, and I can understand that. But if you are a beginner and want to get into FPV, this drone has broken all the barriers to entry. DJI has changed the game by having an emergency brake function on the controller, which allows you to hit this button if you're getting a bit out of control, and you can save your drone, which while you're learning FPV, this could save you thousands. You also have the ability to flick between normal, sport, and manual mode, giving you the option to use this as a normal drone as well as an FPV drone. This is just something you cannot do with a traditional FPV drone. You will still need to get your hours up in a simulator if you want to fly manually. But at least with all these fail-safe options, you will have the confidence to even try FPV for the first time and give it a go and not crash your drone on your maiden flight. Let's hope. The other amazing thing about this drone, and this might seem like such a boring thing, but if you have had anything to do with traditional FPV, you will understand this, and that is the battery situation. These batteries are smart, so they decharge themselves when not in use and are safe to just throw in your bag. They don't require special charging like traditional FPV batteries, which personally just scare the shit out of me because they have to be stored in a LiPo bag, they are highly flammable, and can be really dangerous if you don't look after these batteries properly. So that in itself is a massive win for the Avata. I love these batteries. Plus these bats last about 18 minutes, according to DJI. Personally, I've got them to last around 15 minutes, which is pretty good, because with a traditional Cinewoop, you would be lucky to get 7 minutes out of one battery, which is just an added stress when flying an FPV drone. Now with any drone, there are always gonna be some negatives, and the Avata isn't the perfect drone by any means. It does have a few negatives that you should know about before you go out and buy one of these. The first negative is that this drone had or has some issues where it would slam on the brakes on its own. Now this was apparently fixed by DJI in a recent update to the drone. However, I flew this recently down a waterfall, and on my flight, the Avata braked suddenly. You can see the brake error on screen, and this caused the Avata to flip upside down. Luckily, I was high enough off the ground and I didn't crash. It did recover itself, so I'm thankful for that, but this was a little concerning that this happened again when it's supposed to be fixed. But this is the only time this has happened, and it was a very windy, unique situation. So let's hope that's the end of it and it doesn't happen again. The next con is you need a license to fly this thing if you plan to fly in Australia. I'm not sure on the laws on FPV in the United States or other countries, but in Australia you can only fly this drone at a club which you need to be a member of. And to be honest, who wants to do that? You want to fly this drone out in the wilderness, so pretty much you will need to get a normal drone license to fly commercially and then add this additional FPV license for extended visual line of sight, which costs about $3,000 on top of all your other licensing. So should you buy this drone? Abso-freaking-lutely. If you want to get into FPV, this is the perfect drone for you. It cuts out all the additional learning curve and allows you to practice safely with the ability to flick back and forth into normal mode. It's also a plus with the battery situation and flight time. All around, it's an extremely capable drone and can shoot some amazing quality footage. So yes, go buy this drone if you want to get into FPV. And that's it, hooroo. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button.